Some transitions are planned, others arrive without warning and can stop you dead in your tracks. I'm Karen Maurer, a wealth advisor and partner with Krilogy here in St. Louis. I help guide women and families through life's financial transitions. Throughout these years, I have explored how people navigate change financially, professionally, and personally. Can we prepare for the next chapter? Is it something we fall into, or is it something we choose? Today, I'm joined by someone whose life and work are deeply rooted in helping people find their footing through change, not through financial planning, but by creating a safe place to land. With more than 25 years of experience in leadership, community building, and event planning, Heather Swan has built a career around bringing people together and helping them navigate transitions. She is the owner of YarnCom. She is the yarn queen. She is head fiber freak for Midwest Fiber Festival. She is CEO of the Swan Factor and a Freya cohort facilitator with Little Black Book Women in Business. And all this is done, of course, when she's not traveling, camping, or spoiling her pets. And by the way, she has a favorite dog of mine. Love socks. Heather, your experience with transitions spans professional growth, leadership, family, caregiving, and community building. Girl, you have done it all. When you look back across your life and career, what prepared you most for navigating change, and where did you have to learn things the hard way?
Thank you, Karen, for having me today and having this important conversation about transitions. I think that finding our footing and being able to navigate through those moments when we feel like we're being tousled around, like we're on a roller coaster, it can be really difficult. So one of the things that I enjoy, I shouldn't say enjoy, but one of the things that I really have to do when a significant change is occurring is embracing the moment, staying in the present moment, being aware of your surroundings, taking in the information, and not always just jumping in and taking action. Sometimes we need to take that information and compile that data from like the finance world, but like just in general, take in all of that information and really embrace the moment for what it is. With every hard time and hard transition, there are other things that come out of it that put you in a different position, give you an experience that gives you an opportunity to become something even more than you were. Another thing that I think is really important when you are navigating change is accepting help. I think all of us, especially as women, is that we are independent. We are like, I'm going to show them how I'm going to do X, Y, Z. Yeah. That is not necessary. I think very much so women need to accept the help that's given to them. A great example for me is that when I was going through one of my transitions, a significant health issue with my family, is that my group of friends came to me and they're like, what can we do? And I said, I have no idea. And they said, what if we come do your laundry? We don't know how long your husband's going to be in the hospital. So once a week, one of those couples would show up at my house and they would take my laundry and they would go do it. And then they would bring it back.
Oh, that's a godsend.
Right? I tried to hire them afterwards, but they said no. So accepting that help in those moments so then your brain can focus on the things that you need to be focusing on.
Did somebody have to encourage you to accept that help? Because I do think as women, we often have had those personal experiences. So we know the value of just having your laundry done or, just running up and picking up the prescriptions and how important that is. But to your point before, we want to be everything to all people.
Correct.
And, at what point do you just surrender and say, okay, just do it? Do you wait till you're beaten down or did you do that from the onset?
In that specific scenario, I had to get bullied by one of my friends.
Okay.
She sat me down and was like, Heather, you have too many things on your plate. You are trying to manage too much.
Yeah.
Please let us do something for you. And then started brainstorming a list of what are the things that have to happen. And that was where we landed with it. So
Love it. Yeah.
it's really good to have bullies in your life.
I love
At least that's what I think. My
No, I
friends,
think you're right. I think you're
yeah.
right. I have a cousin who's going through a medical situation with her family, and her girlfriends have asked repeatedly, "What can we do? What can we do?" And she was talking to me last night, and she said, I finally called on my posse, and I said, "All right, you can help. I need orange juice." And I just kind of giggled, and I thought, like, DoorDash exists, right?
Right.
Or, I can just run up the store. Live very close to you. But I think in her mind, she wanted the help. She just had something that she knew she wanted orange juice at the house for her husband. And so that's what she
Right.
asked him to do. Now, I'm definitely going to suggest the laundry thing because I think that's awesome.
The laundry is the best. It was so wonderful.
Yeah. So accepting help from friends.
Accepting help.
What else did you find kind of got you through that transition?
Getting me through was giving myself grace. So sometimes you are stressed out, overwhelmed, and you drop balls. And also you are frustrated and you're angry and you're working through all of these different emotions and you have all these thoughts swimming around in your head. And some of them aren't always the most positive.
Yeah.
And
Thank you for your honesty in that.
and
Not many people admit that. But
yeah, I mean,
human
you
nature.
it is absolutely human nature. And so when you are going through that and you're having that moment where you are feeling a certain way that really is not necessarily what we usually look at as being positive or stay positive.
Right.
Everybody goes through, we're all human.
Sure.
Sometimes you're looking at the person that you love and they have become someone totally, completely different and you don't like that person. And that's okay. That
Yeah.
is okay. And so
They
giving
probably
yourself
don't like
grace.
themselves in that moment either. I mean, sometimes they
Right.
just can't even control it.
Exactly. There's things that are outside of the control. So really giving yourself grace in those moments to accept that, yes, this is how I feel right now. Yes, this is where I am. And this too shall pass like everything else has been, but not beating yourself up for being in those spaces. And really just trying to do your best when you look in the mirror, saying, I love you. You're doing the best job that you can in this moment.
Right.
And keep pushing through. Because the next thing is, the next thing to come, you're going to need to be able to love yourself so that you can love those that are around you.
Well, and oftentimes people lose their own identity. You have to put your own priorities on the back burner, take a leave of absence from work, put a career dream on hold, put the kids, lower priority. And I think you lose that clarity of who you are and what you're focused on because you're focusing on that transition, especially in the case where it's a medical issue with a spouse or a parent or a child. Everything, all the energy focuses towards them, but yet the bills still need to be paid.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's
Absolutely.
something that could potentially be catastrophic in losing life, that's not the time to look back and say, oh, wait, we don't have this in order. We don't have this
Right.
in place. So as you know, with my business, I really try to work with families and women ahead of time, just so they're made sure they're brought into the conversation.
Correct.
They know everything that's going on so that in the event, like a situation that you had, you can focus completely on your husband, knowing that these other things are in order. That's the goal, but that's not always
Right.
the reality, right?
That is very true. And that was the last point that I was going to be about when you're navigating change, being prepared. So what does that mean? Having things organized. So when we were going through all of that, I was 45, my husband was 52. We were not old in the
Right.
sense of
You're not
what
thinking
we
about
were
that happening.
experiencing. And fortunately, 5 years before that, we had sat down because both of us had gotten to a point in our careers where there was money, our children were getting older, we were starting to have more assets and wanted to be more responsible, wanted to become adults. And so we did sit down with our financial team and said, okay, what are the things we need to do to put in place? And one of the things was they came at us and said, you both need these whole life insurance policies. And we were like, no, we don't. Like, what do we need this for?
Right.
And fast forward 5 years later, I am so happy that we had done that because that had really helped us to be prepared. So having your financial assets organized in a way that can help support you during that time. And also just especially in this day and age, you can have bills on automatic payment. You can have so many things set up to make things go a little bit smoother and easier. And
Sure.
so being prepared, um, my husband and I have always had access to each other's phones, and so if that means making sure your face is on your spouse's or whatever that looks like, but just being prepared for the event that when an emergency arises or a last minute change is occurring, you aren't having to fumble through that part of it.
Right.
You're able to just kind of like thinking of a basketball analogy where you're dribbling down the court and then, one of your point guard fumbles, but somebody else is able to just jump right in, grab the ball and continue down the court in order to score the point. Like that is what the goal is. So when you're going through transitions, it does make it a lot easier when your house is in order.
I love that analogy. That's perfect. And it just reinforces also that it takes a team, whether it's a team running a household or then when you bring in your church group, your friends, whatever your community is to help you get through that transition.
Absolutely.
That helps us transition to the wonderful community that you've built.
Yes.
Walk us through once, and fortunately, things turned out very well for your husband, and he's healthy and stable, and everything is good. But that also led to an opportunity for you to take a step and fulfill a dream of yours. Will you share that with us?
Yes. So I have always wanted to own my own business in some way, shape, or form. And throughout my corporate career, I was involved in 3 different startups. 2 of them were wildly successful. One sold for hundreds of millions of dollars,
Wow.
and the second one is going really strong. And I am excited to continue to watch its growth. It is doing some really great things in people's lives and their health. So I decided during all of this, though, that I was continually building for other people and I always wanted to build for myself. And I had thought about opening a local yarn shop years ago, and it was one of those pie in the sky, like, oh, wouldn't that be so fun? I could sit and knit and play with yarn and weave and do all the things with it. And I put that off to the side because you get caught up in life and you get caught up in your kids and making sure that you're making the right choices for everybody and providing. And I could go down the rabbit hole of all the different things of what I was caught up in. And so when all of this happened, I did feel empowered to be able to sit back and say, okay, you know what? We're in a really great place. We're fortunate our children are entering into adulthood or we're adults at that point, and we are able to make an investment where I can make the investment in myself. And my husband, I appreciate the drugs that made him a little delusional at the time. And he is probably my biggest fan. He is my biggest cheerleader. Aside from my mom, they'll probably compete with each other if they both hear this. But he really encouraged me to say, okay, go ahead and jump in. And so I started building a local yarn shop. Several yarn shops in the region had started closing. It was after COVID. And I felt this call to really bring that back in. But part of owning a yarn shop is not just a specialty retail. In order to see success, a lot of times you really need to build your community around it. You need to provide a space where people can come together through fiber arts, which could be knitting, crochet, weaving, macrame, lots and lots of other things, and being able to enjoy those handcrafts with one another.
Mhm.
And even though it's something they can do by themselves, it's much better to do it in community and to learn from one another. And so I established YarnCom and I established the Midwest Fiber Festival, which is a large scale event that brings together people for a weekend. And these happen all over the country, but we really didn't have one in St. Louis. And so I
Wow.
just kept feeling this call. And so I was like, okay, I am going to do, these are the things I'm going to do. And so now our 5th year of the festival will be happening in April, and we just celebrated 3 years of the shop. So we're definitely deep into it now.
Wonderful. So it seems like in you pursuing your dream and doing something for yourself, it really became more about doing something for others, which the community knows you as a very selfless, generous person. And I've seen you do it and get excited about witnessing relationships building.
Mhm.
And I feel, I'm sure the sales are wonderful as well, but I feel like you get so excited just by producing that relationship. And, when two people sit down and share a craft or teach each other a craft, and those other conversations develop and that other support develops, that's how we find each other. So I
Absolutely.
love the focus, and you're just, Heather and I are part of a mutual women's entrepreneurial group. And at the end of every meeting, you always say, feel free to stay, feel free to grab a cup of coffee, feel free to hang out. You're a fabulous host for events, open door policy. And I think just that openness and that community has become so valuable. And
Thank you.
everybody knows you for the wonderful
Thank you.
community that you've built. And even though, I've never picked up a knitting needle, I'm there at YarnCom for, a couple times a month for various reasons. So it really is amazing what has come from something that was a passion of yours.
Correct.
And it seems to have really taken on this beautiful life of its own. So
Yes.
congratulations.
Thank
I mean,
you.
it's so wonderful. Now, you've also still maintained your professional acumen, if you will,
Yes.
not only by running the business, but you've gotten into the leadership roles through Freya, through Little Black Book. Can you tell me more about that?
Yes. So my entire career, I have always been in leadership roles, whether they were soft leadership or direct leadership. And that has been something that has just naturally come through. And starting to work more and more with the Little Black Book organization, I was approached to join the Freya program, which mentors women who are starting their businesses or they're transitioning their businesses. And maybe they're not real clear about that picture of what that looks like. Or maybe they have no business acumen or very limited experience. And so, what we do is we help them set goals. We meet with them twice a month. It is a 6-month program, and we have direct mentorship with them in limited cohorts. So, there's no more than 5 members along with the cohort leader. I call myself a facilitator because a lot of times at the table, I am facilitating and sharing my expertise in my experiences of the last however many years. But also the other women around the table they have just as much input. And
Sure.
sometimes when you have someone with a fresh thought, a fresh brain on something,
Right.
they can bring something totally new to the table that can help you. One of the things that I really enjoy about that program and in working in that space is that we have people who are from different industries. So when I actually went through Freya, I had a yarn shop, but I was working with a real estate agent, a woman who owned a cleaning business, and a woman who works for a funeral home. So we had very different
Right.
businesses
But
and
so many commonalities.
but so many commonalities, and we could each support one another. And that's really what it comes down to when it comes to the community and connecting people together, is getting them connected, supporting one another, cheering each other on, and watching them excel to that next level.
Yeah. So Heather, if we had a listener or a viewer who said, boy, that's exactly what I need. I could use some brainstorming ideas. I could use
Mhm.
some support, some accountability, some mentorship. What's the best way to reach out to you, whether it be for the Freya program or just to come
Right.
hang out at YarnCom and learn more about what that space is about?
Yeah. Probably my email. It's least likely to miss me there. And that is yarnqueen@yarncomstl.com. And that is usually the best way to get a hold of me so that I can get back to you and not lose it.
Wonderful. Well, I'm sure you will be hearing from people because you offer such a valuable service, and just
Thank
your whole
you.
personality is just reeks connectivity, which and support. And I really, really appreciate you sharing your story so honestly with us today and the work that you do creating those safe spaces for people who are going through change.
Thank you.
To everyone listening, please remember transitions don't end when the crisis does. Sometimes the bravest work is learning how to step into the new beginning with intention, support, and with self compassion. And as Heather mentioned, giving yourself grace. If this conversation brought up any questions about how life transitions intersect with your financial life, your long term planning, or the legacy that you're shaping, my team and I help families navigate those moments with clarity and confidence. And of course, we have wonderful resources like Heather to connect you with as well. So until next time, I'm Karen Maurer, and this is Her Next Chapter.